we now know some things about Philly. They're bringing back Doc Rivers. James Harden is opting into his option, which is worth $40+ million a year. It's 47 million a year. And Joel Embiid also made some post-game comments about James Harden and him saying that he's not the same player anymore. It's not Houston Harden. He's more of a playmaker. Now, just what do you think about all of this that's going on with Philly? How you feel about them going forward? You know, is there room for optimism, or is this just kind of like a black hole?
I mean, when you have Joel Embiid, it's always room for optimism. You know, he's in the regular season probably a top 4 player in the NBA. You know, he's been playing like an MVP the last 2 seasons, been just as dominant as anybody in the league. But his comments, they were obvious. We can all agree. You know, James Harden hasn't looked the same.
Were they out of line, in your opinion?
No, I wouldn't say they were out of line. He
Even though that's a teammate.
If they was out of line, I don't feel like Harden would have opted in.
Really?
No, I mean, he opted in
47
$47 million.
Who's giving him 47?
That is true.
Who's giving him 40?
That is true.
Who's giving him 35?
But I think, like, sometimes you got to call out your teammates. And I
agree.
think, like, Harden being, like, I don't think Harden is soft. I don't think him being a veteran in this game, him understanding what, like, he knows he wasn't right. You know, he said it himself. This is going to be the first offseason he really has to get that hamstring right if it is still bothering him, which it looked like it has. So this is going to be the first summer he needs to get right. I think Daryl Morey needs to make some moves. You know, George Niang, Danny Green.
Respect my twin.
They're not good.
George
They need to really fix up that rotation. You know, Matisse Thybulle, I don't like, as great as he is defensively, he's literally nothing on offense.
He's useless.
He misses layups. He can't shoot. He needs to definitely get in the lab. They need to build up this team. You know, they're waiting on Tyrese Maxey to make another leap. They want Harden to come back stronger than what he was last year. But they definitely need to fix up the rotation. Doc Rivers coming back. Realistically, what coach is on the market right now? You know, you look at the market. I know a lot of people are confused at why he's come back, but look at the market. Who are you really going to sign? The person that just got signed was Mike Brown. I don't think you're going to pick Mike Brown over Doc Rivers at this point. Like, so I think at this point you had to bring him back. You had to give him, to be fair to Philly, Embiid got hurt. You know, so it's like that really put a dent. Now, I don't want to say a dent on the season, but that definitely hurt them in the series against Miami.
For sure.
You know, they did lose 2 straight, but that hurt them in the series. So I think right now they just need to build that rotation, build up that depth, and James Harden needs to come back better than he was last year.
100%. I'll say this. Do I think Joel Embiid's comments were out of line? Not really. Not really. If anything we've learned about Joel Embiid is that he's going to tell you exactly how he feels, especially if it's in reference of the team getting better.
Yeah.
He was very vocal about Ben Simmons. He said, listen, Ben, you need to get in the lab. You need to start being aggressive. He was very vocal about that. And I'm sure that Embiid's just as vocal when it comes to just the two of them having a private conversation. I can understand when you get into the media, that's when it starts to become an issue because you want to keep certain things private. But there's some guys that are trying to motivate you in different ways. Embiid's a unique individual where he wants to motivate you by challenging you to the media because he understands his words have significant meaning. He speaks, here we are talking about it on the podcast because he is that impactful of an NBA player. He's 100% right. He's not that same player right now because he has been trying to come back from this hamstring injury for an entire season, really didn't have a full offseason to work. Now he has a full offseason to recuperate that hamstring. And we've seen hamstring injuries, especially a player towards the back end of their career, start to hinder their play. And James Harden has to get through that. And in order for Philly to reach the heights that they want to reach, James Harden has to be James Harden. That was said when the trade was made. It can be said until James Harden's time's done in Philly. If James Harden wants to win a championship in Philadelphia, if Joel Embiid wants to win a championship with James Harden being his counterpart, James Harden has to step up to the plate. Now, as Doc Rivers being the head coach, I don't mind it. He's had to deal with some interesting circumstance. Last year, he comes in year one, the first seed in the Eastern Conference, overachieved in that sense, and they underachieved come playoff time. And that was due to Ben Simmons' mental lapse, where it was very uncharacteristic of him to just completely take himself out of a game offensively. Defensively, he was still Ben Simmons, but offensively, he refused to be aggressive, and that definitely impacted that outcome of that series. Now this year, you don't have Ben Simmons playing the first half of the season, and they played relatively well. Joel Embiid, when he was on the court, had them in contention night in, night out. That's why Joel Embiid was a candidate for the MVP. And then the trade happens, James Harden comes in, and then James Harden was excellent for those first 3 games, and then you got an inconsistent play out of him. And it was a lot that he had to manage, and the roster construction itself wasn't great overall, and he did what he could. Of course, you come up short, and you can't be happy with that outcome, especially when you have Joel Embiid, who's expiring. Of course, Joel Embiid is great right now. He is a top 4, top 5 player at worst in the NBA. But who knows how much longer that body can take. I think that you need to, if you're Philadelphia, continue to try and put the best roster out while you have Embiid in his prime. And you don't know how long that's going to last for.
Philly is stuck. It's as simple as that. They lost to the Heat 99-90 in Game 6. It felt like much more. I didn't think Philly ever had a chance. The main problem is that they're too top heavy. They have 4 players. It's Harden, it's Tobias,
100%.
it's Embiid, and it's Tyrese Maxey. Everybody else after that, Danny Green, I'll put him in there as well. Everybody after that
Get well soon, Danny.
is not somebody that you can rely on. You can't rely on Niang. You can't rely on Shake Milton. You can't rely on Cork Miles.
You
can't rely on DeAndre Jordan.
No, you can't.
You can't rely on any of their bench players. You can't rely on Thibault. Because of that, that's Philly's major problem. And they just have no depth. And Doc Rivers staying, and I think it's a good move. Only because, Doc Rivers was right. In his post-game press conference, he said, when I first got here, no one picked us to be anywhere.
For sure.
People take that quote and they say, oh, but you had Embiid and Simmons. Yeah, we picked you to, make the final. Like, nobody picked Philly to make finals
No
when
way.
Doc Rivers first got the job. It was fresh off when Jimmy Butler had just left. They signed Tobias Harris. People had tame expectations for Philadelphia, and he took them to the 1st seed. And this year, they were a top 3 seed. No, they were the 4th seed. So Doc Rivers has done an okay job. And to be fair to him, James Harden gets traded for at the midway point of the season. George Niang went on NBC Sports Philadelphia on a podcast that they do and said they had 4 to 5 practices with James Harden. 4 to 5 practices isn't enough practice to implement somebody of James Harden's stature into an offense. And Patrick Beverley on First Take today was talking about how Doc Rivers playing for him, his offense. Doc Rivers demands a lot out of the point guard position. So maybe Harden not playing to his regular self is more so due to the fact of him trying to incorporate himself into Doc Rivers' system. Maybe it's him not being the same. Maybe it's a combination of both. But either way, this team needs a full offseason to fully mesh together and to figure out how they're going to run their offense. Because Harden and Embiid, both their play styles are contrasting play styles. They don't complement each other. And that's something that I said when Harden first got traded to Philadelphia. But here's where everything goes bad. And this doesn't look good for Harden. 4 losses to the Heat were by an average of 18.5 points. That's the largest margin of victory in a loss in Sixers history.
Wow.
So this was an embarrassingly bad series for Philadelphia. There have been 4,062 postseason games since 1996, and Harden is the only NBA player in that 26-year span to fail to score in the second half while committing at least 3 turnovers in at least 23 minutes. This was an embarrassingly bad second half performance for James Harden in most of these games.
Yeah, he was historically
He
bad.
played in 6 second halves. He had 11 turnovers and 9 total baskets in all of those second halves combined. That's a lot. And I just don't know where Harden goes from here. Is he going to opt into his option? Of course. It's money that he can't pass up on.
Absolutely not.
Should Philadelphia extend him? Depending on the number, they should. But what Philadelphia has to do this offseason is they have to offload Tobias Harris because Tobias Harris doesn't fit in with this team. They have to get more role players. And Joel Embiid said something that I really agreed with. And this is his exact quote. We've never had PJ Tucker. That's really what I'm trying to say. Joel Embiid was talking about the toughness of certain teams and how, in his time in Philadelphia, he's never had an enforcer like a Marcus Smart,
Jimmy,
like a PJ Tucker. Well,
Jimmy
that was for a short amount of time.
Leash in what way? And then we'll get back to
Brett Brown.
Okay, all right.
That was a short amount of time. But what Joel Embiid is saying is that he's never had one of those just glue hustle guys on Philadelphia, and he feels like that's something they're missing, a PJ Tucker. And I totally love him giving PJ his credit because he was phenomenal as well, shooting-wise, defensively. We know who PJ Tucker is. On to Joel Embiid's actually, before I get onto that, Harden was asked if Doc Rivers basically calls plays to get him the ball. And Harden refused to answer it and just said next question, which means that Doc Rivers doesn't. So that's probably another reason why Harden failed to really implement himself in the offense, and Doc Rivers has a lot of blame in that. I didn't like Joel Embiid's comments. I didn't like it at all. Like, not one bit.
Because he called your boy out?
Not because he called Harden out. It's because it just showed me that he's not a leader. His comments showed me he is not a leader. He said these two quotes. At some point, you have to stop looking at the front office and coaching staff. You have to look at the players. I like that.
Okay.
That's something I do like
I
because
agree.
he's saying, he's basically co-signing Doc and what Elton Brand has done, which was give Al Horford a shit ton of money to only trade him and find out it didn't fit. Elton Brand has made a lot of shit moves.
Yeah.
So for Embiid to be like, oh, we got to stop looking at the front office coaches. I mean, the front office is the reason why there's no depth on your team.
That's true.
That's one thing. And Doc Rivers, we've seen time and time again, him failing to adjust has also caused the Sixers big time and teams in the past big time. But I do like that he's also holding players accountable.
And himself included in that.
But then him saying, since we got him, everybody expected Houston James Harden. But that's not who he is anymore. You may look at that as being real. Maybe it's how Joel Embiid feels. But it's a stupid comment for him to make. And the reason why it's stupid for him to make was because 3 games into James Harden's tenure, the first quote that came out of your mouth was, I've never been this open in my life. At that point, you weren't saying, oh, no, man, he's not the same. No. But now that he's going through a rough stretch, instead of saying, this is what Joel Embiid actually should have said. And this is where maybe my media training comes in so handy. I'm like a PR guy. What Joel Embiid should have said was, I understand James Harden had a rough series and he hasn't totally been himself, but we have to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's been stringing a hamstring injury that he played through last year in the playoffs, and he hasn't been able to have a full offseason to totally work on his basketball skill. This year, he was really hindered by that. So I'm really looking forward to this offseason and seeing how James Harden comes back from that injury because I think he's going to be back to his normal self, and I'm going to love playing with him when he does that.
Maybe Embiid's not, though. Maybe he's tired of carrying them all the time.
But this is where I want to get to. We just saw Pat Bev go on a media tour slandering Chris Paul. But in the midst of that entire media tour, he also said, I would still give James Harden the max because Doc Rivers is tough to play for. Pat Bev, somebody who played with James Harden in Houston, is defending him. And Joel Embiid, who Harden is his current teammate, can't say, look at what this guy's been through with his injury. I mean, this guy played through a grade 2 hamstring last year in the playoffs. He played 60-plus minutes on it. Let's give him time to come back from this because I know when he comes back, we're going to be a much better team. Because at the end of the day, if Joel Embiid is wise, he realizes this. The Sixers are stuck. And unless you're getting that version of James Harden, you are not competing for a championship. So ultimately, maybe you're right. Maybe Embiid is tired of it. And that's another thing I thought of. We might be seeing Joel Embiid demand a trade soon if he sees Philly being this stuck.
That's facts, though.
I don't see it.
No, you're right. Maybe he won't demand a trade. He'll leave.
He just played with a broken face.
But how can he leave without demanding a trade?
I mean, how many years does he have left on his contract? He'll leave after the contract.
2-3.
You think he'll wait that long?
You know what? Understandable, given his body. He wants to maximize his prime right now.
Back-to-back years of his co-star not playing good in a playoff series.
When it matters most.
When it matters most, and him carrying. I think that puts, like, I understand you don't like the comments, but sometimes that puts you in a, like, he's probably just upset.
And
like,
Joel,
he didn't play his best.
He had a broken face.
I was going to say, Joel Embiid is playing with a
still.
fractured orbital, comes back, definitely putting his body on the line. I'm sure he wants a little bit out of his number 2, and he's not giving that to him. He didn't give that to him.
He gave that to him in Game 4.
He had a stellar performance. It was his best game in months.
That's for sure. Harden was phenomenal. I didn't get fooled by that performance.
Of course,
I knew what was going to happen.
Absolutely.
Game 6 was terrible.
But at the same time, like,
that's just been the epitome of Harden this whole season.
But at the same time, Embiid has to instill confidence in his teammates as a leader. He has to be able to say, no, I believe in this guy.
Maybe he's not a leader.
That's what I'm saying. I think his comments showed me that he's not a leader. He needs somebody like a Jimmy Butler.
Was Shaquille O'Neal a leader in your opinion?
No.
No, not the best one, I would say.
Definitely not.
No.
But was still able to get the job done.
Yeah, but it's different because with those Lakers teams and all-star players.
We're talking about a great team.
All-star players don't have to be leaders. Like on those Laker teams, usually the middleman was Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher was the leader on those teams. When you look at the Lakers that won the championship in 2010 and 2009, the leader on those teams was Derek Fisher. Kobe was the best player, and Kobe does have a mindset tough as nails.
Okay.
But Derek Fisher was the calming presence on those teams.
I feel like in the later stages of Kobe's career, he definitely was more a leader. 100%.
The reason I disagree with that,
2010.
I disagree with that statement because we also saw that same Kobe, once that team got worse, was still screaming at his teammates in practice and throwing the ball at them.
Well, I mean, Jordan did that. He had a whole career of doing that, and that was his way of being a leader.
Yeah, I understand, but that's not a way that usually,
I mean,
leaders
there's
lead.
different strokes for different folks. That's
Yeah,
really what it comes down to.
I know what you're saying, but
which is why I don't mind the Embiid comments. I understand it comes off a little bit brash, right? But end of the day, this is his way of motivating these guys. Listen, I am not going to hold back my feelings. You need to come correct.
And then for him to say, like for him and Jimmy Butler to have this love fest,
that was crazy.
Is just ridiculous in
that
my
was
opinion.
crazy.
It's just
I agree.
ridiculous.
That I agree with.
So
what's wrong with it?
I mean, bro, you just lost to him, and then you're basically just.
I wish I had him on my team.
Exactly. It's like egregious. But he's understanding and voicing. Listen, like what I've been saying, Joel Embiid's not a private individual when it comes to what he's thinking.
True.
They made a mistake. You should have signed him instead of Tobias. That's obvious.
That's another thing, right? Because not only did he not vouch for Harden and kind of toss Harden to the side like he's dirty laundry.
Yeah.
He also inadvertently said, "Yeah, we fucked up signing Tobias."
Essentially,
that's what he inadvertently said.
Is he wrong about that?
He's not wrong about it.
But so then, what is wrong with what he said?
No, it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. But as a leader,
I mean,
you have now outcasted two of your four best players.
Tobias got to go. He's got to go. We know this.
Okay,
Harden's got to stay.
Okay, but I'm saying, let's
choice.
just say they're all together. You just basically shoved two of your best players to the side. That's what I'm saying.
They got to play better, man. This is 2 years in a I'm not talking Harden specifically. Tobias was not good. Ben was not good last year. This season, Tobias was inconsistent. I won't say he wasn't good. He was inconsistent. This year, Tobias was not good. Harden, epitome inconsistent.
Look, I mean, I understand we're trying to give Embiid the benefit of the doubt because he's the best player. I understand that. But
you about to come crazy at him right now?
At the same time, we remember that Atlanta series last year. He didn't show up for any fourth quarter.
Ben Simmons didn't show up for 4 quarters of almost any game.
I understand, but Embiid also didn't show up
because he was what?
Quarters. He was gassed
because of what he was doing.
Work on your conditioning.
No, he was backpacking and carrying them bums. He was carrying them. He was legit carrying bums, bro. Like, come on, bro. Let's not do that, bro. He was carrying bums just like he was carrying bums this series.
I don't want to hear that because if any other star player has a shit fourth quarter and you end up losing that game, then you're gonna say you didn't live up to your superstar status in those fourth quarters. Embiid didn't play to his standard in those fourth quarters, and that's the bottom line of it. So that's why I understand the comments, but those aren't endorsements like that. As a leader of a team, you just can't say things like that, and that's my main point. Luka's playing with the worst roster than Embiid has ever had, but as the Sixers have been in the playoffs at least, and you don't go Luka saying, "Oh man, yeah, like I wish I had Bradley Beal on my team," or he doesn't say that. He says he thinks these guys are great players, and whether he believes it or not, he's bringing that endorsement.
Embiid's been in the league a little bit longer. He has a little bit more leeway in what he says. Yes, Luka's already on that superstar.
Luka's made a conference finals before Embiid. Yeah. He has more leeway. Yeah. Luka has more leeway.
But vocally he can't be like that yet. He's still too young.
Oh, you know what's the difference between Luka and Embiid? Luka will talk shit and give you 40.
No,
like he did to the Suns.
Embiid will come on, stop.
Like he did to the Suns.
Embiid will talk crazy and still give you 40.
Booker said Luka special. They blew the Mavericks out in Game 5.
He's cold.
Luka looked at the camera and said everybody acts tough when they're up, and then came back and won 2 straight games. Luka's a legend. Let's
yes,
chill.
but he's still young and he can't jaw crazy.
You know what else
team.
is also crazy about Dallas blowing the Suns out? Dinwiddie had 30. Jalen Brunson had 25. His
guys
came to play basketball.
That's facts.
They came to actually play ball.
That's facts.
Harden did not. Other
But
than the
Embiid didn't come to
masterclass.
play ball either.
Well, I
he
mean,
showed up, but he didn't play
had
like
a
Embiid.
broken
Come on, man.
face.
Okay,
bro.
so-
Come on.
Stop.
But
Stop.
what-
Stop.
no,
Joel,
wait, hold on,
Joel, come
hold on.
on.
Here we go.
Before you
Go.
Isn't Riv the one that always says, if you suit up, you suit it up? I don't want to hear any excuses. Don't you always say that?
He had a broken face.
He's right though.
He had a broken face. He
I
couldn't
agree.
see the ball,
I agree.
bro. Like he
Listen,
could not
I'm
see
not
the ball.
disagreeing.
And he still came to play, bro. Like he still came to show.
Nah,
not
he suited up.
disagreeing.
But did he came
Listen,
to play
but
like MVP Embiid? No. He
That's
wasn't
fair.
MVP Embiid.
Did Harden play like anything Harden?
No.
Oh, okay. There it is.
Come
This
on.
is another fourth quarter stinker that Harden has had, and when he's shown his career that he just doesn't show up for those moments. Simple. I'm sorry. I hate it had to be. Actually, I don't hate it had to be him. I don't hate it had to be him.
But you picked Philly out to come out the East this year.
You're a liar. I don't hate it had to be him. It's just he shows you who he is. I'm sorry, but Philly's gonna be fine. They need to build that
Do
team.
you think
up.
they're going to be fine?
As long as they have Embiid, they'll be a playoff
It's going to
team.
be a very interesting offseason to look forward to if you're a Sixers fan because you need to
What
see
can
something
you realistically get for Tobias Harris?
Role players, that's it.
$36 million. Tobias Harris. Who's taking that contract? The Kings? Maybe?
Pistons.
happen. Maybe.
Sadiq Bey is better than him.
He wouldn't trade Sadiq Bey though.
They have Jeremy. I wouldn't trade Jeremy Grant for Tobias Harris. I really wouldn't do it. Would you? I would do it.
No, I wouldn't do it either, but
Yeah, so it's like
maybe they can get Corey Joseph.
Oh my God, that's worse than shit.
I don't know. Maybe Orlando. They could use a little bit.
Orlando's not.
I don't know. I mean, they could
I said
use
the
a
only
little-
dumb franchise is the Kings.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they have Harrison Barnes is better
Barnes
than
and
Tobias
Holmes, and then Philly throws in some picks. Like, listen, man.
Yo, you bring Barnes to Philly for Tobias? That's interesting. I would do that.
They're the
I would
same
do
guy.
that. Yeah, exactly.
But I don't.
Who knows what Harrison Barnes could do in the playoffs? I mean,
We
last
know
time we
what he
saw
can
it,
do.
it was bad, but it's been years. It's been years. Who knows if he's that same guy?
He's going to turn into a spot-up shooter when he gets to Philly.
You think?
Yes.
I mean, Tobias, he gets opportunities with the ball in
And
his
he
hands to
misses.
make something happen. I agree.
What's the point of him having the ball?
Not much, but I'm saying maybe something
Malcolm
happens
Brogdon?
different. For
The
Tobias,
Pacers wouldn't do it.
no.
I know. Nobody would. That's my point. Tobias Harris is literally damn near untradeable. He's almost like Westbrook.
But I feel like Malcolm's available though.
Not for Tobias.
No, I agree. But I mean, they have the point guard already. They have Halliburton. It's a
Brogdon
possibility.
can play both, though.
No, I understand.
Who's better, Brogdon or Tobias?
Tobias is better.
Think so?
Yes.
I would personally take Brogdon. It's. I mean,
really
it's
don't
really.
know.
Come on,
It's really
no,
a
it's
toss-up for
like,
me. I'm
dude,
really stuck here. You would take Tobias?
Tobias is better. You disrespect Tobias a little bit too much.
I mean, bro, he really
What's
is
the
just the
disrespect?
epitome
Yeah, what's
of
the disrespect?
you
dude.
just act like he's just like
Mid.
unserviceable player.
No, he's
At this-
mid.
when you need him, he's unserviceable.
He's mid. You're gonna pull up his numbers. I'm gonna tell you he's mid.
I told you last season he was decent but inconsistent.
He's good. He'll give
This
you a cool
year
18,
he was.
19 a game.
What was going on?
But it's like it's probably the most.
It's ugly.
I don't give a shit. 19 in like NBA history. Like I just Maybe I'm being. Maybe
No,
I'm
I
being
know
a little
I
too
know
harsh
what you're saying.
with Tobias Harris.
You're
Maybe-
just being very firm about it, which is fine.
Maybe I'm being a little.
It's
too
funny
harsh.
though.
I mean, we'll see, man.
He said it's probably the most ain't shit 19.
Like when
That's how I
Tobias
feel about Bam. So
really. At
nah,
least
not
Bam's giving
that
me, like,
level. I know.
all-world
I know.
Defense.
I'm
Like,
just
what's
talking.
Tobias doing? Coming up, pulling up, jump shot. It's like okay, it's
Goes
my going.
in.
Maybe not. I don't
When
know.
when he attacks the basket, I'm not looking forward to that.
when he gets the ball,
ugly.
it's
Maybe
like
Chicago could trade for him. When Zach LaVine leaves,
if we get
Don't
Tobias,
waste
bro,
your energy.
I'd be in misery. No, I'd really be like, bro. Oh my god.
No,
bro.
I
Watching him
understand.
chuck is crazy. Like him and Vooch, the same guy to me. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like watching him play,
Vooch turned up for y'all
turned up for what?
in the playoffs. He was
wide
what do
open.
Yeah, he was.
If you're wide open, I don't care what you do. You're wide open.
Whoa.
I don't care if you're wide
That's
open.
not necessarily
He's
true.
being left wide open. If DeMar's getting a screen, they're trapping him every time. He's left wide open.
I don't know, man. It's rude.
What is Tobias, like a top 80 player in the NBA? 90? 75?
I think it's the top 60.
You don't believe that. You don't believe that. I think De'Aaron Fox is like top 50.
Oh my God, that's low.
He's pretty
That's
much. I think he's
low,
pretty.
bro.
I think he's
Stop.
confidently better than Tobias Harris.
I think
Yes.
De'Aaron's like more top 40.
Really?
Yeah, I'm telling you, you were very.
Where's
that's
RJ?
very
Top
low.
50?
He should be top 50.
He's confidently better than Tobias Harris. Like I'm willing to confidently better than Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey. So it's like
Tyrese Maxey, man, another one inconsistent.
Harris is top 90 in the league.